and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick, with the City of Hampton's Communications and Marketing Department. And today my guest is going to offer you some money. So I'm going to let him explain what he's doing and how neighborhoods can get a little boost. Welcome, Jonathan McBride.
Thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm doing good, good.
So if my neighborhood wants money, what do we need to do?
Well, the Neighbor Commission offers two different types of grants for both physical and social projects in their community. So doing community improvements, and really the first step is reaching out to your neighbor commissioner and finding out how to access these funds.
Okay, so let's start reaching out to my neighborhood commissioner. How the heck do I find out who my neighborhood commissioner is?
You can find that online at hampton.gov. You can contact our office at 727-6140, or you can call 311 and they'll connect you to your neighbor commissioner as well.
All right, that's pretty easy.
Yep.
So now I found out who that person is, and I tell them, my neighborhood wants to have a block party. My neighborhood wants a new sign. What kinds of things could I do with this money?
Well, typically you start out with an idea. So usually it's an individual or a small group that starts out with the idea, and we encourage them to kind of reach out to the rest of their neighbors, kind of float the idea out there.
Make sure there's
beyond
some
themselves.
support.
Yeah, so it's not just one person's idea. The Neighbor Commission grant requires them to do outreach, so the outreach needs to be clear. So you need to have a clear idea of what it is. It needs to be comprehensive, meaning you've reached out to as many neighbors as possible kind of in your neighborhood, and then it really needs to be consistent so that you're not skipping houses to just the people you know, but really reaching out to your entire community.
It's not just my private party.
Yeah.
It truly brings, and I think that's the point of this, is we're bringing the neighborhood together. We're strengthening the neighborhood. It's not just a social
Yeah, and the purpose of the grant funds really is to get people to know each other through the process of designing the project, whether that's, like I said, either a community event or whether that's designing a neighborhood entryway, whether that's a sign or beautification. It's just getting to know your neighbors in the planning process and in the building and the activity itself.
I think some people would say, why do we do this? Where does the money come from, and who decides how it gets used?
Well, about 18 years ago, Council had started to appropriate capital funds to the Neighbor Commission, which is a group of volunteers from the community stakeholders to designate, to kind of get those funds out into the community based on what the community's needs were, rather than what the city wants. Typically, as city staff, it's easy to go in and say, oh, well, we could do trees and we could do this types of landscaping and these things to really improve a community, when in reality, the neighbors typically know better what they want in their community. And so the Neighbor Commission really is a way for neighbors to get those improvements into their community in the way and the design that they like, rather than what the city staff want.
Gotcha.
So this is so about 18 years ago they started doing that. In the last 18 years, the Neighbor Commission has granted almost $2 million in community grants for both physical and social projects.
That is really nice. And I think the other thing is neighborhoods may not understand some of the costs involved in some of these projects. If it's a social event, you think, oh, well, we're going to donate the food and, it's going to be easy. But it isn't always easy when you've got a parade permit or, you have to pay for security or you have to rent porta potties. I mean, you need permits and there's a big city process that can be costly for neighborhoods.
Yeah, there's a special event process for our social projects. If you're doing it on public property, you need to have special event permits, and we can help walk you through that process. But there's definitely a cost. Anytime you want to have entertainment at an event, there's a cost for that, and the grant funds are easy to pay for entertainment purposes or food or things like that. Especially, those grants really look for the match. We're looking to see what you're going to contribute as a community to match the value of those projects. So if we're giving our social projects go up to $2,000. If we give $2,000 in entertainment and food for a project, then the community needs to match $2,000 in volunteer time or $2,000 in donations and other discounts from businesses, so that they're building partnerships and they're spending their own kind of blood, sweat, and tears into the project as well.
And some neighborhoods certainly have more blood, sweat, and tears than they do money. And so this can help with the hard costs for an event, whereas you can get donated time or donated food maybe, or cooking or cleanup, all those things that go into putting on an event.
A good example was the Aberdeen Gardens just had their Heritage Day event this past summer, and it was a $2,000 grant, but they actually spent about $7,000 in volunteer time. So you just see the return on investment as far as project planning and then actually putting on an event. We're getting a lot as a city. We're getting a lot more investment out of the community by putting a little bit of funds into the community.
And Aberdeen they're a little bit different in that was not just an event for people who live there.
Exactly.
It wasn't just the neighborhood planned it and worked together on it, but they do it during the Jazz Festival. They try to bring in people to talk about the heritage of this very special heritage of that neighborhood.
Yeah, and this was a new partnership, and so the Neighborhood Commission really values those kind of unique partnerships where we can connect a neighborhood with something bigger, or they can improve a project. Not just we're going to have a community cookout. We're going to have something that's maybe a little bit bigger, a little better, with a higher purpose in that sense.
What are some examples of things that neighborhoods have used these grants for in the past?
The most common one are neighborhood signs. We typically, if you drive around the city, any neighborhood that's probably at least 20 to 30 years old that has a new sign is probably from the Neighborhood Commission. Newer developments typically have a neighborhood sign, but so some examples would be Farmington, Aberdeen just got theirs last year.
Merrimack Shores, Sussex has one.
Sussex, Old Wythe. You can think of in Phoebus, there's
Old Hampton.
the Buckrow sign that's down on Mallory Street, the New Point, Kings Point, right down there on Mercury is another one where they actually did landscaping.
I was going to say, a lot of times the signs come with, some nice landscaping that either people put together or that the grant helps for as well.
Yeah, and East Hampton is another one that's just done theirs recently.
Nice
so
sign.
Pasture Point. So we do think, those are the signs that you typically see, and those are visible. And neighborhoods like to do those as a starting project because it kind of brings the spirit of a neighborhood together on the entryway. We've also done things that also just kind of set the character of a neighborhood. So the physical, around the physical stuff, the street poles, decorative street signage is one thing that kind of sets a character. It fits especially the more historic neighborhoods. As well as we've done crosswalks and things like that help connect neighbors across busy streets.
Oh, that's a nice idea.
And playgrounds. The Wythe School Playground as well as the Park Place Playground were both grant funded. And the original Buckrow Playground was partly grant funded. That was also community funds that supported that as well.
Great. Okay. So there's a lot of things that neighborhoods can do, and you've given them some ideas. So again, what do they do when I think I have an idea? First, I should probably go to my neighbors, right? And vet the idea and make sure there's support. Then what?
Then I would reach out to your neighborhood commissioner. Your neighborhood commissioner is someone in the community. They're a resident just like you that's interested in seeing your community improved. And you can, like I said, you can reach them through our website or call 311 and they'll contact you with their district commissioner. If you don't know where your district is, they'll help you track that down too.
There is a map online that you can look at and see what your district is. I think it's a very logical way that we're all numbered, but it's one of those things that I can't remember my neighborhood zone number.
Yeah. But the grants, as far as the Neighborhood Commission, is just kind of keep a date in mind. September 30th is the next deadline for the grants. The Neighborhood Commission is looking to raise about $20,000 worth of projects in each district. So if you've got an idea, go ahead and get it in now so that we can encourage all the districts to have some projects going on this year. And
is there a cap? Is there a range of funds that you usually give?
Yeah, for the physical grants, actually the maximum is $100,000. We typically don't see $100,000. Those are comprehensive kind of projects, and then the physical grants are up to $2,000 for the social grants.
And are there some groups that use that every year for the 4th of July parade or the Easter egg hunt or things like that?
For annual projects, there is a reduction if you continue to do an annual project and there's no kind of change in scope. Aberdeen is an example. They'd come in previously for that project, but with this new partnership that really expanded their scope of bringing in the Jazz Festival participants and a partnership with downtown to do a bus and things like that to really improve their visibility for their project. That helped.
So you help neighborhoods get going, and then you hope that those things can be sustained, and maybe they could do something different or something bigger with the funds each year. Okay. Well, thank you, Jonathan. Thanks for coming by.
Glad to be here. Like to see some good projects this year.
That's great. And it's not very often that you get offered money. So, and it's money for bringing your neighborhood together, strengthening your neighborhood. So if you have an idea, please be sure to get involved. Thank you.